nobody wants to be average in life, but I think specifically in a business like real estate, where the barrier to entry is so low, the average is going to be low as well. So the average agent, sells 6 homes a year, and the average agent is broke, and the average agent, their customers don't want to use them again. And the average agent isn't helping people. They're usually, causing chaos in the transaction.
Yeah.
We all see it all the time. So
Yeah.
we don't want to be average. We want to go out of our way to serve people and make sure that their needs are met.
I have a special guest today. This young man, I've been following him for a while now. He's been in the business a little over 3 years with eXp Realty, his second brokerage. We'll talk about that. He's been a great success, and I look forward to hearing from him some tips and tricks, some of the trials and tribulations that he's gone through. He did enter the world of politics initially, so that's going to be very interesting, and what led him to real estate. So I want to welcome the very successful Lance Barnett to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.
I appreciate it, Tracy.
Lance, I appreciate you coming by. You've been watching you for a while. I know we had coffee probably, has it been a year?
Oh, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's flashed by. Of course, I did take a little bit of time off, so this is the first in-person interview I've had in a while, too. So I've been doing a lot of virtual stuff. But Lance, I want to kick off the show. I want people to really get to know you, whether, it's the agents out there. I know you're doing your productivity coach is what you have on your LinkedIn as well as doing your real estate. So those who may be, looking for someone to be mentored, maybe customers out there just getting to know you. And that's what this is all about. So tell us a little bit about young Lance and what led you to Liberty University.
Sure. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, actually on a dairy farm. So 5 generations of hard work. My dad is fond of saying that after dairy farming, everything else in life is easy. So,
is that like getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. 4 a.m. and it doesn't slow down all day. So I grew up and went to Liberty University. I was really happy with that choice. I met a lot of great people there. And then right out of college, had the opportunity to come down to Florida and work in politics. I was already kind of involved in campaigns and different political avenues there, and had the opportunity to take on a role here in Florida and really enjoyed it. And
is that something just an interest you had and you reached out, or were they reaching out to look for recruits? I mean, how do you make that connection?
Yeah, politics is kind of a lot like real estate in some ways, in any sales role, because it's a grind. It's very difficult. And if you stick around long enough, they'll give you a job. So, they started out paying in pizza, and then pretty soon they're paying for your hotel and your flight. And pretty soon they're like, man, right, you've been around the longest. You want to run this? So
when you said that, made me think of just the analogy. I mean, if you're willing to go out and knock on doors for a campaign, and I guess you might know kind of what the political angle is of some neighborhoods, some cities and so forth. But imagine you're knocking on doors. You don't know who's going to answer and what they're, you say somebody's name and they may go ballistic, right? Especially today in this world. And if you're willing to do that, yeah, real estate probably does come easier.
Yeah. A lot of phone calls and a lot of doors knocked, and that was my bread and butter. And, started out doing that and then managing people that were doing that and doing it myself. And definitely the worst someone can say to you when you're knocking doors for real estate is, hey, I'm not interested in buying or selling. Have a great day.
Right.
But when you mention the wrong candidate at a door, you'll know it. That's for sure.
Yeah. The expression on their face immediately, right? Yeah. I didn't think about, I was going through the notes and going through your LinkedIn. I really didn't put that together. But when you said that, I'm like, man, that is like working on the dairy farm, getting up at 4 a.m. Because, here we get up at 4 a.m. because it's cooler out when the sun comes out. In Pennsylvania, it ain't like that.
Yeah, it's 0 degrees and hard to feel the fingers at 4 a.m. when you're working. That's for sure.
Yeah, I bet. So you worked some campaigns. You ended up in Tallahassee, if I saw the LinkedIn correctly. So you're basically the spring of 19 when I saw your transition. What leads you away to join this brokerage, which you had is listed in Orlando? What goes on there in your life that takes you away and gets you into real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of different campaigns, and then also worked on the legislative side, running bills, trying to build legislation and laws. And then in the summer of 19, transitioned out of politics full time and into real estate. And a very good friend of mine, Karen Wilkins, actually runs a successful brokerage in Orlando. And I was able to transition and kind of try it out. And I was actually afraid. I wasn't sure if I was going to have that motivation that I had previously. And I really enjoyed it and was able to start helping families pretty quickly and experience a lot of success.
Was this person a friend of yours and kind of led you
Yeah.
that way, say, hey, this might be an area?
Yeah, so a good friend of mine from politics, his mom, Karen Wilkins, actually runs a small independent brokerage there. Very successful on the east side of Orlando and across Central Florida. And so it was kind of a thing where I could dip my toes in the water and try it out, and I really enjoyed it and was able to.
Did you see quick success using some of the maybe tactics or just having the mindset that you were using from the politics side?
Yes and no. I would say there were about 3 months there where I was not having success. And in the end, I had to kind of come to the point where I understood that even if I wasn't going to be in it a year from now, I had to go all out for the next 30, 60, 90 days. And once I was able to get kind of over that mindset, I think that had a lot to do with my success. And within the first 6 months there, maybe August 2019 through January, I was able to string together 12 or 15 deals. And for a lot of folks
That got you excited.
getting into the business, they don't see that success in the first year or even more.
Right. I didn't want to interrupt you there, but my thought was, so you had this way of knocking on doors, making phone calls, doing all the political campaign type stuff. And then you go over to real estate, and Ms. Wilkerson probably had some proven tactics, some proven network, whatever, marketing ideas. How did you did you find how to mesh what you like to do with what she was doing and make it your own? And then did you see your success change in that?
Yeah, to some extent, for sure. I would say the past experiences and the confidence to do the work played a big role in it. But I owe it all to mentors and people in my life who have shown me the ropes. Karen Wilkins being one of them, and having systems and processes where it's kind of plug and play. Do X, Y, and Z, and A, B, C will happen. And so I was really grateful for that, and I still am. And being able to step in and just kind of not make it your own, but just focus on the inputs that you can actually control, and you will see those results. And we'll talk about that more, but I'm a huge fan of the team model and how that can really build young agents and take them from deal 1 to deal 100.
Right. Yeah. A very common discussion we have on a lot of podcasts where I'm interviewing real estate agents like yourself, and that initial thing, a lot of agents, I think, well, in your case, you were kind of led to this brokerage, which turned out to be success. You actually got with a great mentor, but that doesn't happen for every realtor. And if you've listened enough of my episodes, they'll tell you that, some of them wanted to obviously quit. Maybe some of them did quit, but got back in it because someone else encouraged them to go try, kind of follow someone else. How important is, someone who might be looking to get into real estate right now, which they kind of would be a little crazy, but if they are, whenever they're listening to this episode today or 3 years from now, how important is it to take some time and due diligence and search out and actually you interview the broker, or maybe there is someone's mom who's been in the business a while who's willing to mentor, she's just a senior agent, that type of thing. How important is to find that type of person when you first get in?
It's incredibly important. And so I would say there's two things. On one side, you have to have that person that you can trust, and they really do have, you guys are tied at the hip, When you make money, they make money. And I would definitely recommend, of course, the financial incentive, but also they want to see you succeed, and make sure that you, have both of you on the same page there. And then on the other side, where I am now on the Florida Coastal team, I'll just speak to that. For new agents coming on the team, we have a game plan for the first 90 days so they can see up front what the first 90 days of their real estate career looks like, and also on the backside what the expectations of success will be. Right. So these are the actions that will be done, X, Y, and Z, and these are the results that will happen, A, B, and C. Not because we make outlandish promises, we can just point to the last 10 people that went through the program successfully. Right. This is what happens.
How important is it, especially early, and you may still be like this, I think you are, to have a regiment that, yeah, you are self-employed. And if you want to sleep in today, you can. But to get up, have your routine, whatever it is, work out, have breakfast, and you're in the office by 8, 9 o'clock, whatever your regiment is. How important is that in success, especially for a new agent who may not really fully understand everything involved in real estate? Maybe they didn't have 20 years of corporate experience. I know some agents that have had some project management type experience and can structure their own thing and have had success. But as a new agent coming in, like yourself, you were only what, 25? 25
Younger.
coming in to really stick to that regimen. And that way you have a measurable thing to say, this was successful, this wasn't,
Yeah, absolutely. Incredibly important. They say the PDS, the perfect daily schedule, you have to live by it. And, of course, every coach and guru out there has their version of it. But I think, getting into the office in a timely manner and crushing out the most difficult part of your day first. Brian Tracy has Eat the Frog and, all those things that people coach on, and just getting your work out of the way. And then honestly, your rest of your day can be for appointments. So between 7 and 8, I'm in the office and getting my outbound, prospecting out of the way, and then putting out flyers and writing contracts, and then it's straight to appointments pretty much in the afternoon.
Right. And in your 3+ years now you've been in it, you were over in Orlando working at that brokerage. And actually, that one of the questions I think about you moving over. You moved over here to Jacksonville in the middle of COVID.
Yes.
You had listed May 2020 as when you joined the Florida Coastal team with EXP. What happened there? Because I know a lot of people are like, what were you doing? Because March everything started to shut down, and then you come over to a whole nother different region of Florida to restart your business.
So the timeline, so I basically had 6 months of success and learning the ropes in Orlando. And then, as luck would have it, a couple of things coincided. I moved to Jacksonville to get married, the best reason, right? Moved for love, right? And moved in January of 2020. And in March 8th of 2020, got married. And as we all know, March 14th, the very next wedding to be booked at that venue did not happen. So, and then, so you move, you get married, a worldwide pandemic, and then you switch brokerages all in the middle of, maybe a 30-day period.
Right.
Or 60 days. So that was definitely a lot to pile on there, and definitely changed my production level and things like that. I had a period where I was kind of like loosely being coached and stuff, but I wasn't really on a team here in Jacksonville, and did not experience a ton of success there. And then was able to find the Florida Coastal team, and all the credit to, the great team leaders out there, specifically mine, Chris Snow, has the systems and the ability to really train agents and provide opportunities.
Chris is very focused. Obviously, he's been on the podcast, and I talked to him numerous times. At least, I've never been in the office like obviously you are every day with him, but just talking to him, he knows his stuff. He has a successful path, and he just keeps pounding that path of success. In your experience, I think since there's a lot of agents out there who, there's some brokerages. I don't think Chris's is as regimented as a couple that I can think of that you and I know of, but they're very successful brokerages because they are, hey, you're going to be in the office from 9 to noon. This is what you're going to do. And like, so you just were coached that, you've seen success in that. So that's what you do. And you keep doing it, and you keep spinning off deals because of that regimen. There's a lot of people, or I don't say a lot of people, just there's a lot of people that just can't quite fit in that hole. They just.
For sure.
I think personally, it's the perception of real estate that they're gonna be footloose and fancy free. And there are some people that were successful doing that because they already had a network of people. But if, like you said, you moved over to Jacksonville, the only person you probably knew is your wife and your in-laws, right? And how do you restart your business? And you've already been in the business a year yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to do it twice. So twice in 12 months, once in Orlando, and then again almost a year later in Jacksonville. And I would say it's all about providing value to those that you meet. And it is easy, if you have, uncles in town that are investing in real estate, great, good for you. Didn't really have that opportunity, but being, again, back to aligning yourself with someone who has those opportunities and just needs someone to capitalize on them, that makes all the difference.
Right.
And it really helped me in Orlando, and then the same story up here in Jacksonville, getting into, I really started with the Florida Coastal team at the end of 2020. So 21 started a full year, and was able to surpass my goals the first full year in actually diving into the database and going to work with a good team around me.
If you were, let's say you didn't even start, you came to Jacksonville or look for something to do and you said, hey, real estate.
Sure.
Looking back on what you know now, if you were, well, you were telling your friend that lived in Oshkosh Bagosh, what would be the things that you would do to try to find a brokerage or not, EXP, but a team like the Florida Coastal team? Sure. What kind of advice would you give that person? What kind of due diligence do they need to do to really dig deep and find that team that they're going to match up so they don't waste a lot of time?
Yeah.
Let alone be out of the business in 3 months because they didn't sell anything.
Absolutely. I'd say look for a team leader or a group leader who has a personal record of success and then also a record of success of leading people from where you are to where you want to go. Uh-huh. And seeing that is super important. And then the other side of that is a good leader is going to be able to show you what your next 90, 180 days are going to look like. These are the metrics we're going to be looking for. If you can hit them, these are the metrics that we expect. And it's the old lead versus lag metrics, right? You make 100 dials, you get 1 deal, whatever that, ratio is. And a good leader is going to know those metrics and have the skills to basically wind you up and let you go and work at it.
Coming from your political campaigning, knocking on doors, phone calls, and all that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of statistics in that as well. It's why people still do it today. They still do knock on doors. Yep. They had the leverage of social media as well, but there's still people out there still doing the grassroots types campaigning. When you sat down with Chris and Chris is explaining to you, this is how I do things, this is what you're going to do, 90, 180 days, blah, blah, blah. Did it click with you because of you knew this routine that you had with the politics, that you knew if you knocked on so many doors, I guess, how many people are you going to influence? Mm-hmm. How many people, I imagine they have statistics of how many people they could possibly sway their vote, or encourage them to vote for them by just knocking on the door. Yeah. Did it click with you because of that background?
Yeah, some of that, knowing what the probability is. In politics, it was you knock 100 doors, these people are this likely to vote for your candidate. And so if every 100 doors you hit, you're a gain of 5 votes, 10 votes, whatever that is. And then the same thing, and then in real estate, and then also comparing it to my previous good experience with the Wilkins Way in Orlando, where it was a good team environment, everybody was pulling in the same direction, and there were real metrics and data points along the way of this is what we're going to go after, and if you hit X, Y, Z goals, you're going to be successful.
Give us if you can, this is a job interview question.
Okay.
Give us something maybe that you still do today. What Karen taught you there that you still use today?
I would say maybe an overall theme. We could get more technical, but an overall theme is serving. So their slogan is to serve intentionally. And I've had moments, I think many good agents have, but myself, I've had moments where 8 a.m. on closing day and I'm shoveling out the garage of the seller. And, we've all had those moments where something needs cleaned, something needs moved, something needs fixed. You have to get it done. In the end, it doesn't matter whose fault it was or where the blame may lie. If you went the correct route and tried to get it fixed on someone else's dime or someone else's effort, it comes down on your shoulders to make sure that your customers have an incredible experience. And selfishly, I'd love for them to work with me again, but to serve intentionally means to put them first and their needs first. And that's what it's all about. And definitely have taken
having
that with
that
me.
mindset of serving, maybe you have to go out there an hour before the final walkthrough and, make sure that, there's some cobwebs taken out or whatever it is. I know my wife had one recently where they actually said in the review, even after the contract was signed up to closing, she was still pulling the weeds out. It was a house that unfortunately the person had passed away and the family took over. So weeds were growing up and everything. Yep. So we had to go out there and clean it up. And that's what you had to do.
And that's what it comes down to, going the extra mile and serving your clients intentionally and making sure your customers are put first. And definitely have carried that with me. And I hope, every single one of my customers could tell you that.
Yeah. The mindset, I put that under a mindset. She created a mindset for you there. But I think it, fed into your personality already, your ideology. what I think a lot of agents, and you agree or disagree with me, they don't understand that what you were doing right there actually is like putting under your marketing budget, because you're putting that little extra effort. You don't know what will wow that customer. They may not thought of anything, and all of a sudden they're, he's out here cleaning the stuff out. The seller may have even noticed it. Oh my God, the buyer's agent showed up and helped me clean out the thing. You don't know who they're going to tell next when you wow them like that. They're going to be, oh, you can't believe this guy, Lance. He showed up and cleaned out the garage, and because I couldn't get it done in time.
Yeah.
And where that story may lead to, and what other referrals. So it's no different than marketing a bunch of postcards out there and hoping someone calls on it. Well, you don't know what that little thing and how far that person will take it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And obviously, I'm sure you've seen success. Maybe you could give us a little story. In 3 years where you have wowed your clients and they've given you multiple referrals out of the blue sometimes, when you're like, man, I don't even have a deal going on right now. And all of a sudden the phone rings and it's Sally referring you another one.
Yeah, definitely a couple different situations like that. I have a lot of great customers who have referred me many, many people, but two specific instances pop to mind. One was a former agent who was impressed with our listing presentation and what we had to offer and just the value we were willing to provide up front. And she ended up actually not selling and not moving, but she was so thrilled with it. She was like, can I give you a review? Whatever, trying to help my business down the road in spite of, it wasn't the right fit for her, but was able to go out of her way to help me in my business just based off of the value she was seeing us, lead with. Right. And leading with value is what it's all about.
In value, what's one person sees as value versus another person is completely different too. But I think like you said, that mindset of serving, you go out there, you just you do what you believe is the right thing to do with passion and a smile, and you just don't, and hopefully it comes to you. That's the only. In our world of commission based, referral partners and so forth, you can never have enough advocates out there.
Absolutely,
someone that hopefully you can turn. A few minutes ago, you mentioned team. You're on the Florida Coastal team here. You mentioned Karen and her team in Orlando there. As a young person, at 25, I imagine that when you got in the business, you didn't own your own home at the time. You're getting started. How important do you feel, that similar people because I think what I've seen in, 2.5 years of doing this podcast, I've had a lot of sub 30-year-olds in here doing extremely well, which is just amazing, which back when I was growing up, when I was sub 30, you didn't see, I don't think there was, not that I was looking for them, but most of the agents, the stereotypical agent was, in the 50s or older, right? And a young person here, you've made it a career at 25, you changed into real estate. But the team concept, what do you personally got from Karen's team? What do you get from Chris's Florida Coastal team as the ideology of the team and coming into the office? What do you draw from that?
So definitely too many things to list, but I always say real estate is lonely on a good day. So, even when things are going right, it's still, you against the world. It can seem like everyone else in the transaction is working against you and you are, struggling to get it done. So definitely can seem that way. But having the team mentality, a lot of times brokerages, depending on how they're structured, the truth is most brokerages are just a place to hang your license. And there are definitely different value adds to different brokerages. And there are a lot of good ones out there. But for a team, for those of you who don't know, you're financially aligned basically at the hip. And depending on how it goes, if you're not making money, they're not making money. And so they have every incentive in the world to help you be as productive as possible and to help you reach, as wild of success as you hope and dream. And so having a good one that has the skills and the database, the spend, all those things can go into it, and also the experience, because the truth is, I'm calling my sales manager and team leader pretty much every day saying, what about this? What about this? Here's, is this the correct way to do it?
Right. Because any small business, you go out there, talk, anyone who started any business, whatever it may be, from scratch, real estate agents included, we've gone out there and blown a lot of money on marketing. whatever it may, it could be time too, but time is money as well, and blown a little thing. And to have, a senior like Chris that is proven a success. And I think you mentioned how important it is to find that person's actually been successful themselves. Because there's a lot of brokers out there right now. I'm not saying all brokers in this category that I'm going to describe are successful or not successful, but a lot of them actually haven't sold anything recently. They actually haven't done, social media. They didn't really do social media like they, the Tom Ferrys are telling you to do social media today.
Yeah.
And to get coaching from them, it's one thing if they're coaching you and obviously you're getting success, but there's others out there that are in those positions and they're not growing with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Having someone who's done it previously and then also has continued to build a team and coach others to see really incredible success in real time. So when our sales manager and our team leader say, XYZ works, we know because it's working right now for other people in the office.
Right.
And I am blessed to have a leadership role on the team as well as a productivity coach. So for all of our newer agents, I get to be in the trenches with them, working on their goals and helping them reach them as well.
I'm glad you brought that up because it is on my list here, the productivity coach. I think there's a phrase, and if I may misquote it wrong, if you want to learn it, teach it, right? And have you seen some of the things, you've seen some of the struggles that some of these newer agents, whatever it may be, maybe they don't necessarily believe in the structure as much or they're not as good on the phone, whatever it may be, but how is being that coach and analyzing them and their strengths and weaknesses and how you can improve them, improved yourself?
Yeah, it's huge. So whenever you teach something, you're really teaching yourself and reminding yourself of those things. So whether it's a certain technique or, a skills-based lesson or more like technology side, you're reminding yourself of those skills and that information. And it's definitely true. If you want to learn something, teach it and you'll learn it better than you ever could have been taught. And so I've seen that in my own business. And the other side of it is when you help people, you're rewarded. We all know, no matter where you come from, we all know how life works. So, what you put in is what you get out.
Right.
And there's a million ways to say that, but real estate has been great for me, but it's never been more rewarding when I'm helping other people than when I'm helping other people achieve their goals.
And seeing their success,
Yeah.
you get that little adrenaline rush when they close that deal or whatever. Yeah, 100%.
It's been the best.
What would you? I'm going to start with the success. And let's kind of focus maybe on three distinct things. I'm sure again your list could be long, but you personally, in your trials and tribulations in 3+ years in the business, what do you think are three vitally important things that you religiously do, whether it's it's a daily routine, a weekly routine, or monthly routine, that you think any agent right now to be successful, in your opinion, what three things really are moving the needle for you in your business?
Yeah. So 3 is a lot to think about. So I'll start with 1.
Start with 1. I'll help you with the other 2.
Okay, great. You just remind me as we go. But the number one thing, I think almost every single agent that I see struggle in their business, and don't get me wrong, we've all struggled in our business, no matter where we are. And no matter how successful people are, don't let anyone tell you it's always been like that. But the thing that I see coming back time and time again is people who struggle, they really are not talking to enough people. You can't overestimate the power of providing value and interacting with more people. So whether that's a lead on the phone or a lead at the door or an open house or a past customer or just stopping by in your own neighborhood and meeting your neighbors and trying to help them out with their real estate needs. All of those things are interacting with folks who buy, sell, and invest in real estate. And I see that time and time again where when an agent is struggling, you look at their numbers and how many people did we actually try and help this week? How many people did we talk to? How many people did we interact with? And really, how many people had the option to choose you as their real estate agent?
This is a really great topic. And I remember something Jordan Ferry said to me when I asked her something similar to that. And she's like, she's got 3 young boys and they're all playing like Little League baseball and stuff. And she said she would just wear a T-shirt saying something about real estate on it, or I'm a realtor, or whatever.
Yeah.
What are some things that are you coaching, you maybe expanding the horizons of the people you're coaching, or some of the things that you just do, like you're on your way home, or you're here at the podcast. Did I talk to enough people today? What are some of the little things that you do to because obviously, one day you may only talk to 10 because you got busy, something went
Sure.
haywire, you had to go clean out a garage.
Mhm.
But you're like, hey, I only talked to 10 people today, so I need to talk to 50 tomorrow to make up, get me to where my average is, wherever that number of contacts a day. So what are some of the little things that you do that maybe the average person is not even thinking about, that you do to let people know you're in real estate and you're here to help?
Yeah. So one, our team is great about supplying us with great leads, both hot ones that are coming in right now, but as they say, the old is in the gold is in the old. So
I never heard
also
that one. Gold is
leads.
in the old.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go back and talk to folks who thought about selling 12 months ago and the time wasn't right,
Mhm.
and or thought about selling 24 months ago and their kid hadn't graduated high school. So all those things, for us being on a good team, you have an unlimited supply of people to talk to whenever you want. On the flip side, I've had leads, come from the most random of places, connecting with people and having them recognize you as a reputable source of real estate information. I have reached out to sellers on Facebook Marketplace who have been selling a product, a watch, a car, whatever, and connected with them and ended up helping them with real estate. So,
Was that the initial plan, or you were just,
No.
you're not going to disclose that?
no, not at all. It would be a while if I was going through just looking for people who might be in the real estate mood. And then also, I'll just give a shout out to a great agent on our team. His name is Gary Lawrence, and he can be a prospecting machine when he wants. But what he prefers to do is meet people in his local Publix or meet people at the golf club or what have you.
Mhm.
And he's great at meeting people where they're at and really helping them with their situations.
He kind of has that attitude. They come within 6 feet of him, that he's gonna let them know he's in real estate.
Well, that's the Publix rule. If you work at Publix, if they're within 6 feet for 2 seconds or whatever, you have to greet them. He uses that to great success. I think he sold more houses out of the pub sub line than anywhere else. So
All right.
he's in
Because
line at the deli
the
counter.
subject of real estate, it's not a controversial thing. I mean, I guess maybe someone might be upset because they unfortunately couldn't buy a home but for the most part, people want to know what the value of their home is, that type of. So, so you had one topic there was the number of people you talked to. That's a key right there. Wherever you can touch someone as a personal goal, or as maybe the team kind of sets their goal. How many contacts a day do you kind of focus on trying to make?
Yeah, so if I was starting, absolutely cold, I would shoot for the moon and go as many as possible. And that's actual conversations. But really, a realistic number of conversations about real estate, I believe, is 20. You can obviously go up and expect to see those results faster and go down, and it will probably take a little while longer. And then if you have a considerable amount in the pipeline, some of those are warmer touches, so you don't need quite as many every single day.
You might do some 10 new ones versus 10 old ones.
Yeah,
type thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like you're moving people down the pipeline with 10 conversations, and then maybe you have 10 new conversations.
Mhm.
And I see that being a pretty good number. But Brian Buffini has some great material as well. He did it when it was way more difficult. You're calling out of a real Rolodex instead of a CRM or something like that.
Right.
And then just actually having genuine conversations in our CRM, which is called Follow Up Boss. They give points assigned, 10 points for a conversation, but 100 points if that conversation goes over the 2-minute mark. So they recognize that actually getting, to the point where you're talking about something more than the weather, 120-second mark, where you can actually dive in and be like, okay, I realize you're not a telemarketer. I realize we're just having a conversation about what my real estate needs are. I think I could tell you, I really could share that I'm looking for that fifth bedroom in the pool. Things like that.
So someone listening to this may say, well, geez, Lance, that sounds really great. 20 conversations. But if you've listened to past podcasts, that's a number that some of the top brokerages focus on, that you're having those conversations like you're talking about. So Lance is right. He's honed in on success. That person may say, well, I'm actually very bashful. Actually, when I'm in Publix, I'll look at people when they walk by me, say hi, but for me to say that takes a lot in my personality to come out. Now, after we start talking, I can sit there and we can talk about whatever. I'll tell them a life story. Sometimes why is this too much information? But what are some basic things that you do when you get on that phone that open them up, that initial 10, 15 seconds?
Yeah, I love to greet people. Depending on what kind of a lead or hand raise there was, maybe they reached out about 123 Main Street, and I can say, would you like some more information on that property, or were you just browsing? Just browsing? Okay, no worries. Are you thinking about buying in the next year or holding off? Okay, and take it from there. But also, for folks that are either colder or farther down the road, it's okay to just reach out and say, hey, I'm your local realtor, just checking in to see if you were planning a real estate move this year. No, no worries. Are you really enjoying where you're at now? Renting, owning, what makes the place so great? Is there any house that you would move for? Having those things that people love to talk about. And we're blessed to work in an industry where everyone loves to talk about real estate. I have some good friends who work in the insurance side, and I tell them all the time, I don't know how you do it. Even people who need insurance that day don't want to talk about insurance. But on the flip side, with real estate, people who are 10 years away from making a real estate move, they'll talk to you for 30 minutes about real estate.
Yeah.
So
I had Patty Ketchum on a couple episodes ago, it was a couple weeks ago. If you go back and listen, she says, everyone wants to sleep under a roof. No one wants to sleep outside. They're going to talk to you about real estate, which now, because I had Brett tell that story, lost my train of thought. Chris talks about this. He talks about that way to basically disarm. Yeah, because what are you calling me for? I know you're not ready to move forward on anything right now, but I just wanted to see, put myself. And is someone coming to the team or signing up under EXP, you're recruiting them, type of thing. That team, and I imagine you guys are probably doing some role playing, right? Especially with the newer people,
all the time.
Because I don't know anyone. I was at Quicken Loans for 8.5 years in a call center environment. We were still getting coached and listening to calls and that kind of thing, always trying to get it better on our responses. And obviously it's great when you do listen to a call because sometimes you don't necessarily hear what the customer's saying. They're saying, but you're not actually hearing it, how they're saying it. When you start to step back and start to slow things down, then you start to get even better and better at listening to someone, what they're actually telling you, and then what your response may be. Is that something that the team's really helped you out and really getting those at-bats and how to handle different conversations and take different ways?
Yeah, role playing and practicing connecting with people definitely plays a role in it and is something you can always practice more of. We do a ton of it on the team, and I think all the good teams out there do. Anytime you're trying to connect with folks, it's a good idea to practice.
Well, I was thinking, there's some people obviously, like anything, they pick up things faster than others. And I was just thinking about when you were answering that question, the amount of time that you spend on the phone. How important is it to really constantly be fine tuning that, because you are spending a lot of time. So you only have ears. Not like you and I here face to face. I can see your facial expressions and everything. You're only hearing, so you don't know what's going on around them. You don't know what their facial expressions are. Are they standing there? Do they have clothes on or not? You don't know, and you have to be focused in. And it really takes practice, and but you don't have to go out there and say with 100 years of experience. But if each phone call, you're working on getting a little bit better and having that coach or mentor listening to your call and then go, well, we could have done this. We could have responded differently. We could have twisted this a different way and maybe got them to react. Because of the amount of time you spend, how important is that in really ramping your business up because you spend so much time on the phone?
Yeah, I think it's super important. Alex Hormozy and a lot of other good influencers in that space of personal development and business growth say you have to invest in yourself, and because you are your biggest asset. You are what generates the business. And so building those skills and, whatever that may be, if it helps you get one more deal next month, it's been a great investment. Right. And then also, it's just human nature. When you say a sentence, I probably hear one thing, and that might not be what you said at all. And so repeating it back to folks and really making sure that you're connecting on a deeper level and what they really need is what it's all about.
That's a real important, repeating it back to more. Hey, am I hearing you saying this? Is this what you're saying? When you're building that relationship, and that, to be honest with you, that's one of the tangible benefits of doing a podcast, because I have to turn off my phone and take the focus off. We're not sitting there, doing as we, do with our wives. So
Yeah.
we're sitting at dinner or whatever, or at a restaurant waiting for the dinner to come out.
That's when you get in trouble.
And it makes me practice on obviously listening to you, but the other thing is, like, don't interrupt them, right? Let them come out, because there's thoughts that go through my head, and there's many times, if you've listened to my podcast, where I'll actually, because I don't want to interrupt you, that thought pops in your head. You're like, no, stay over here. I got to focus on what Lance is saying, and how important it is in improving your phone skills every day. And it's like, you don't have to be a superstar at it, but if you're improving every day, you're going to see improvement in your success, as an agent, and building those relationships, which then hopefully turn into the deals.
Yeah. That means a lot, and definitely connecting and hearing what people actually need and asking why, right? So when someone says, well, we need a yard with a fence. Okay, why is that? Well, we want to be safe. Why is that? Well, we have 3 kids. Okay, wow. What are their ages? And really getting to the reason behind why did they click on that home, right? There's a lot of steps down the road that you can go.
Right. And it's so important. The why. They have kids. Maybe they're one of these people they like pit bulls, but they know they need to be, or maybe they got a Great Dane. You don't know. Years ago, I was looking at pets, and I was like, it would be really cool to adopt these service dogs, right? But you have to have a 10-foot fence, because those dogs can, I was like, okay, where am I going to find a house in the subdivision in Northeast Florida that you can put a 10-foot fence in?
Because they were trained to go over those 6-foot fences.
Exactly. You got to ask those questions. And the fact that the reality is, would you agree, the average agent isn't going to ask those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. The average agent, we say it all the time, nobody wants to be average in life, but I think specifically in a business like real estate, where the barrier to entry is so low, the average is going to be low as well. So the average agent, sells 6 homes a year, and the average agent is broke, and the average agent, their customers don't want to use them again. And the average agent isn't helping people. They're usually, causing chaos in the transaction.
Yeah.
We all see it all the time. So
Yeah.
we don't want to be average. We want to go out of our way to serve people and make sure that their needs are met.
I know because you just mentioned you've had these transactions with some of these agents on the other end that may have been in business 10 years, but they just seem to not get out of your way. If an agent right now has been in the business for a while, and I think right now with the marketplace, we're seeing that challenge. We know mortgage people are rolling out, real estate agents. We're going to see, as the year turns, who's renewed and who hasn't, who's done their continuing ed and continuing their license, and they're rolling out. What would you recommend? Because I know there's probably some agents on the other end. You're like, you're a really nice person, but you have no idea what you're doing. Come join me and let me let me help you. What are some of those things that you would recommend to some of those agents who feel like they're flatlined? Maybe they're thinking about getting out of the business right now, that you would recommend, hey, maybe the Florida Coastal team and come and hang out with Lance for a while can move your business. What kind of recommendations would you give them?
Yeah, I would say it's not too late. We've all been there where we've had a couple months in a row where we haven't done the type of business that we want, and maybe it's several months in a row, and it's not too late to make a change. So align yourself with people that are successful and that are still experiencing success in this market. There are some of them out there. There are some of us out there, and it really can make a huge difference. It's made all the difference for me.
Right.
One of my big changes, I didn't detail this, but I had such a great experience in Orlando, being on a great team, knowing what I was going to do every single day and how I was going to do it. And that when I moved up to Jacksonville, I didn't realize that every single place was not like that. And so just kind of doing the single agent thing on my own was not successful for me at that time.
Right.
But I realized I needed to go back to what I knew and what I had success with previously. And I don't think I mentioned those last 2 things. When you listed
Yes.
3 things, I do have 2 more things. And I would say, after just not communicating with enough people every day, most agents get out of the business because they don't know what to do or they don't know how to do it. And I think those 2 things, if you don't wake up every day and have that to-do list in your mind, if I do XYZ, I will be successful, then you're in the wrong place. And, maybe that's a brokerage, maybe that's a mindset, maybe that's, just a lack of opportunity. And all of those things can be solved with the right team. So for me, that was what made all the difference. Being able,
Matching up with the right people.
yep, with the right people, those that have actually have the opportunities and the right team. The good teams right now are desperate for people who want to see success. On our team currently, we are actively looking for agents who want to help more people and want to grow a business and see success.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're at right now.
No, I know Chris, because we talked about it on the podcast. Those who want to go back to Chris Snow's podcast and listen to it and follow up with Lantis here. He has a way of generating leads, and he's been doing it a long time, and he's tweaked it like anyone would do. We make it better. We see what we failed over there. Now, he's done it long enough that I'm sure he wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's generating the leads. And if you're not getting that leadership, and you may be someone who needs leads. I mean, a lot of people join teams. Keller Williams is big at that, the teams of Keller Williams, because they buy leads and wherever they're getting leads. And that's what you're already been in the business 3+ years now. Your success, you're rolling with it. Where as time goes on, we'll finish. So calling for Florida Coastal Team is important. If you're listening to this right now and you're stagnant, you need to call, excuse me, sit down with Lance, sit down with Chris and talk about what they're doing there. As you grow, have you started to look forward? Hey, what in 3 years from now? Where am I going to need Chris as much? Am I just, hopefully you've got enough referral business. You don't have time to take on the lead flow that he has coming in. Have you foreshadowed that in any way? And where do you see yourself? Do you want to go open your own brokerage, or is that not even a thought right now?
Yeah, so a couple different parts there. And I've had a lot of younger agents ask me, like, why would you be on a team? And I think a lot of times those are the agents who haven't done their first transaction or haven't done their 10th transaction because they really don't understand how much support and help come from the right team. I think a lot of folks join a team because they think leads are the answer. And then after they do their first 10 deals, they realize leads are just the beginning of your problems. And so you need the team to do those deals. A lot of times, the support, like this afternoon, I have agents showing houses. I have all sorts of things going on. And so great support staff and a great system in place in the right team can really make a difference. And so a lot of folks, I think, just want the leads. But then after they start doing deals, they realize, wow, to run a productive business, there's a million things that go into it. And the truth is, you can spend all your time doing everything but the actual selling of real estate. And so having a team that supports me lets me just do my DPAs, my dollar producing activities every day. And I get to kind of hand off all the other stuff.
Right. What a great dollar producing activities, because we can get distracted by a lot of the other things. Now, there's some things that we need to do. We create our social media or whatever. But as you start to get busier, you need to start kind of handing those things off. Or hiring, whether it's sharing somebody in the office, whether it's going on Fiverr and having someone, create some of that artwork for you, whatever. How important was it when you started to get busy like that to have someone senior like Chris or Karen and say, hey, you're getting away from your dollar producing activities. You could go hand that off and spend $200 over there, but now sell another home because you spent $200 this month on having someone else create that artwork while you went and spent another whatever hours and got one more deal this month.
Yeah, we've all seen that happen. It's incredibly important. After your first 5 deals, I think, the next 5 are almost the hardest because you're spending all your time on the first 5 trying to keep them together, that you're not working for the next 5.
Right.
So incredibly important to keep those dollar producing activities on the forefront of your mind every day. Get them done first, and then maybe you do go play golf in the afternoon. More than likely, if you've done them correctly, you have appointments in the afternoon and you're going out and actually helping those people in person.
Right.
And all those other things, I think a lot of folks enjoy them, but just because you enjoy them, I mean, if that's totally your passion to do paperwork and manage a file, more power to you. I have a great transaction coordinator and, she saves my life every day.
Right.
But for most people, for most agents, that file work and all those other things, bookings and showings and all those things are actually going to hinder you from helping more people. Right. And if your goal is in the end to build a business based on serving people, then doing all that busy work is just holding you back.
How long did it take you? Because I imagine you're busy enough now and had some, you've seen what works for you, what doesn't work for you, that sort of thing, to really hone in on the things that, you enjoy doing. Obviously, you enjoy the business because you're in the office before 8 o'clock in the morning. You start right away. You eat the frog. You're doing those things. So you focused in on taking advice from some great people, and it's producing for you. But how important is for that agent to find the things, especially in the marketing area or networking area, where you love doing it? Now, some people love get on the phone. And there's some people love to knock on the doors. What are some of the things that you just love doing that moves the needle for you, and that you realize there's those other things that you just shove off? What are some of the things that you just love about this business and you love doing?
So the easy answer is I love helping people. When I worked in politics, I was passionate about it for sure. But I liken that to waking up every day and it is a knife fight in a phone booth. And, it's us or them.
Right.
And that, in addition to being bad for your, heart and soul, can just wear on you. And so even on the difficult days when you are feeling burnt out in this, kind of salesy type business, you can focus in and remind yourself, recenter yourself on I'm going out to help people every single day. Today, I'm going to look for that one person who needs my help. And I can wake up and legitimately say every single day here in Northeast Florida, there's at least one person who needs my advice. And in today's market, that's more true than ever. There were times, whether that was 12 months ago or 12 years ago, when you could kind of fall into a deal and make it through and fall into a good deal. Right now, there is a desperate need for solid real estate advice and navigation in today's market.
Well, I think you realize. I mean, you kind of started. I mean, the 2019 and 2020. You're getting started. You saw the early success, but it wasn't. You just fumbled into it. It wasn't because your uncle knew all these people and it was giving you. You actually had to do some work. But what are you seeing the difference? Because the exercise that you did pretty much just from the get-go, and learning from these people, these disciplines of coming in early, making the phone calls, eating the frog, all those types of things. And now the market has changed. It's tough out there. Interest rates are high. You're trying to convince people, hey, property prices are not dropping because we're in high demand here. We're not seeing I call them the local moves where I think when the interest rates were low, people were like, oh, I live in Nocatee. You know what? I don't like Nocatee anymore. Let me move over here, or vice versa. Or I live in Jacksonville. I'm just going to move in. I want to move over to Nocatee. It was no big deal because the interest rates were so low, like money's so cheap, even though the value of the home go up, the payment was still reasonable. Now you're not seeing that local moves going on. But the repetitions that you put in, the discipline, you've put in the practice, so to speak. You put in the reps. How is that, not only helping you now, but obviously keeping a good attitude? Because I think a lot of people right now, their attitudes can be quickly turned, because of the market situation.
Yeah, so a coach I like to follow is Jeff Glover, and the coach that coaches all his coaches, her name is Kate, and she's an incredible leader. And she posted maybe today or yesterday that if you're hanging out with people that are complaining about the market and that's their reason why their business is down, you're hanging out with the wrong people. And don't get me wrong, the market is difficult, but it is all that mentality, right? If that's your reason, then what does that say about your mindset? What does that say about your business practices? And we all have that tendency. We all have to fight that off and go against the grain. And then also, there are certain positives about the market today. Everybody wants to talk about interest rates. Well, two big positives that I've seen is one, prices have actually continued to go up. And so people are sitting on a ton of equity. Frequently, they can actually sell their house, take that equity, move into a bigger, nicer, more expensive house, and keep almost the same payment because they're
Put enough down.
unloading all that equity. They're rolling in with 40, 50% down. Or maybe it's just 20 and it's still making a big difference from what they originally were. And then the other thing is I'm helping a lot of folks right now, first-time home buyers and others, but specifically get their dream homes.
Right.
Where, if the house was $500,000 2 years ago, there were going to be 10 offers and it was going to be $50K over ask. And, oh, your FHA, you don't stand a chance. Your VA, forget about it.
Right.
Now they can go in, negotiate, get their closing costs covered, get a great deal on the house, and the seller still walks away happy because they had all the equity. And so they can actually get that house that it was in their original price range, and it can be a win for a lot of folks.
Going into your listing appointments right now, there's a little more strategery involved than it was, like you're saying, back, a year and a half ago, summer 2020, when you were getting $50,000 over asking price in some of these areas and so forth. Now you're going in and talking to these sellers, and you need to have a little more of a conversation, because it isn't just, hey, yeah, no problem, let me stick the sign in the yard and I'll field the phone calls for you. Because that's I think probably the greatest selling point at that point is an agent who answered the phone. Because you and I know there were agents that were listing houses and like selectively answering the phone.
Yep.
Where there were houses that had 20 or 30 offers, and how are you dealing with that? And I remember having conversations on the podcast about how do you deal with that? Now there's a strategy. You have to be listers last, right? That's the whole thing. But what is your mindset? What is Chris talking about right now as far as you guys as a team going into a listing appointment? How are you? You're obviously spending a little more time with them, I would imagine. What is your kind of mindset and strategy going into a listing appointment to make sure when you list that house the first time, you're not having to go back and drop the price 20 grand 3 weeks from now?
Yeah, now more than ever, being priced correctly matters. And then also now more than ever, actually hiring an agent that has a marketing budget. Our marketing budget is hundreds of times larger than some others.
Right.
And, the average agent spends something to the tune of $200 a month on marketing a home. And so, if you're going to hire that person, you might as well throw it on Zillow and hope someone clicks on it.
Right.
But one, to actually get an offer in this market, and two, to get the best offer, or to get multiple offers and have them working against each other instead of you trying to pull them to where it's even feasible. To have that, you're really hiring someone with a great marketing budget and the skills in place to make it happen.
Are you coaching? Are you going in with a mindset? I know we talked about this at breakfast when Eileen was here a while back. Because there's a lot of talk of the buy downs, whether it's permanent buy down or the 2-1 buy down, whether it's the rate's low, just to market that home more aggressively, because you didn't have to do that. Obviously, when rates were 3%, you didn't have to do that. Now, 7-something%. We hit 8% not too long ago. Lucky we're down off of that. How important is it to understand how to to practice that presentation, but to obviously present it to your customer so they understand it, and obviously take your advice on how to properly list that house?
Yeah. And so for some folks, it makes a lot of sense. For others, they're just looking at the total cost and they just want to get in for the lowest amount possible, or what have you. But it definitely makes sense for a lot of folks. And we're reviewing that either on the selling side as like, this is an opportunity to net the most, where we can help a seller out maybe for the next, or a buyer out for the next 30 years maybe, but it's going to help us out the most right now. And then on the buy side, making sure, I think a lot of folks just read a headline about interest rates and assume either they can't afford the home or they can't afford the home they want. And we're helping folks get those homes every single day.
Right. Anything you want to add? I mean, I really think one of my goals of this podcast is, and I have had agents call me and tell me, hey, I've had customers listen to my podcast and call me because they heard my story. Is there something about Lance that we want people to know? I guess when a customer, who knows how randomly, maybe someone gets referred to you just randomly, just, hey, Lance is a great guy, call him. What do you want them to know about you?
Oh, man. So I would say, first of all, I love my family, and my wife and I are foster parents. That's a cause that's near and dear to our hearts. So right here in Duval County, there are opportunities to make an impact on children's lives and really help them in some of their most difficult times. So if someone was ever interested in talking about foster care or how you can make an impact in that world, even if you didn't want to be a foster parent but wanted to help other foster families and serve that way, that's a big opportunity. The truth is, we all do something to pay the bills, but it's about the impact that you leave on others, and that's really close to us.
Give us some details, because obviously someone who's not actually looking to foster children, but the statistics that's out there, and you fostered 2 local children. You didn't go to China or something. They're local. What are some of the statistical numbers they need to know, and what are areas that someone who wants to foster a child, what areas are in great need, Obviously everyone wants infants, which you were lucky to have, but they're not always available. Sometimes there's kids that are whatever age, right? And then someone who's maybe not necessarily in a position to foster children or already have children, but want to help, like you're talking about.
Yeah, so there is a huge need across age and area. So my wife and I have had the opportunity to foster children from all across North Florida and all across the age range, I would say. Right now, we have, younger children, but we've had older ones as well.
Okay.
And the opportunities are really endless. There are several different organizations, including One More Child and the Isaiah 117 House and Daniel Kids. Those are just three that come to mind that make an impact on a daily basis. And all of them would be more than happy to take a donation, either monetarily or toys or clothes or, of your time. Maybe that's the most valuable, right, for most of us. But if you were ever looking to serve in any capacity and just have an impact on and, be, a kind voice to kids who some of them have never heard that.
I know a lot of people in the real estate area, especially the women's shelters, they're a very popular charity or, things I like to support and the things that they need. I know my good friends, the Two Men in the Truck, they're very much into the battered women's shelters type things. From the foster kids that are in, not necessarily at home with you, but are in these Daniel's place that you mentioned and so forth, what are some of the things that they need on a daily basis that donating would be huge, let alone cash, obviously?
Yeah, another shout out to my friend and fellow agent on the Florida Coastal team, Gary Lawrence. We were just able to do a toy and supply drive for the Daniel Kids Foundation. And some of the things that we were able to gather up, obviously things like clothes, diapers, toothpaste, all the essentials, but also, things like toys and learning supplies. So whether that's, writing utensils and notebooks, backpacks, a lot of times kids that are displaced for whatever reason end up, showing up at their next home with a Walmart bag full of whatever they could grab.
Right.
And it's really tough,
Right.
So even just having a cool backpack that makes sense for their age and gender
Right.
can be super impactful.
Because I think we see a lot of the book pack drives in August and so forth, for the schools and stuff. Yeah. And we have to realize that, that's getting to some of the kids, but there's still more out there. Am I right?
Yeah, and obviously there are a lot of kids that are with their biological parents that need back to school supplies, no doubt. But right now, we've had the opportunity, and a shout out to our church, the Church of 1122, in the last 12 months, rolling out a new focus on foster care. Over 119 families have said yes to foster care.
Wow.
And
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's huge. And those are just the folks that have actually signed up to take children into their home. There are countless more who have actually signed up to support them, whether that's, food, or groceries, or errands run, things like that.
You know what I'd like to do, because we're at that time of the year, and I'm an emotional person, so bear with me. The kids are going to Christmas, and maybe there's kids in their class that are, they're getting whatever they want, right? They're getting a new PlayStation, they're getting that stuff. Then there's that kid that's doesn't know if he's going to get anything, Yeah. When we go live, we don't need to make it a dated podcast, but to put it out, a lot of people do go to my Real Estate Excellence Podcast Facebook page, a lot of agents. Maybe if you have the information, or and we get somebody else, or we can do it virtually, and for 20, 30 minutes, talk about these are the areas that we need. Daniel's house, they have a lot of kids right now. We don't, they're trying to put a Christmas together for them, that kind of stuff. And do here in the next week or so. Can we put something together like that?
Yeah, we absolutely could.
And put it out, and then we can share it on Facebook. Because I think there's so many different things out there. I said the battered women's shelters, and we hear that. I personally don't hear a lot about the foster children. And I don't say they're neglected, but they are in a way that I don't know if it's just not a popular thing. We hear best buddies and that sort of thing. Those are all important things too. But these kids are literally kids with like nothing. Yeah. And right now, this time of the year, to put a little, smile on their face, whether it's for an hour or a day or a week, is really important.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Obviously, near and dear to our hearts. Thank you for that offer, and I'd love to help in any way possible. There are a couple different organizations that I mentioned, and one or two more come to mind that we could definitely make sure
Let's get one of their spokespersons on that knows all the statistics, that can really give out solid information to anyone watching, and we can share it around, see if we can drum something up.
That would be fantastic.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Awesome.
I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate you coming by today.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you.